What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Ishan Hoops. Today, we'll be talking about the really exciting things going around the 2023 NBA trade deadline. And of course, the big headline of the week: Kyrie Irving wants out of the Brooklyn Nets. This is, in my opinion, not a very surprising development. Kyrie and the Nets have been in a contract standoff for over 6 months. Kyrie has really not ingratiated himself in Josiah's good books. Like we can just list through all the controversies, but Kyrie has not been the dependable star that the Nets wanted him to be, and naturally they have like reservations around paying Kyrie. What is it? A 4-year, $195 million max, which is basically almost $50 million a year. Naturally, you'd have reservations paying someone that kind of money, and for Kyrie, I think after he saw the Lakers trade for Rui Hachimura and then expressed that they want to extend Rui Hachimura, I think he realized that the teams with cap space are not going to be teams with cap space for much longer. And out of all those teams, the Lakers are arguably the only enticing free agent destination for Kyrie because he can continue to contend. He can play with LeBron James, a teammate that he knows, he's played with, he's won with. He won probably one of the most incredible championships of all time, coming back 3-1 from against a team that was 73-9 in the Golden State Warriors. Well, that loss is what made the Warriors get Kyrie's current co-star in Kevin Durant on the team. So like there is history there, and it should be no surprise to anyone that Kyrie Irving wants to be a Los Angeles Laker. All the reporting in the last few days have confirmed it. They have said that Kyrie is looking for a move to the Lakers, but there are other teams that could, throw their hat in the mix and possibly pick up Kyrie Irving. However, there are just so many concerns around Kyrie. Like this is arguably the most volatile player we've seen in the last decade. He won when he was a young player who was being like who accepted that he needs to be the second star to LeBron James. He won a title, and after that, when he wanted more, he went to Boston and realized that being the number one star isn't as cracked up as it is. And naturally, it failed in Boston. He left extremely acrimoniously. That fan base might hate him forever. Then you go to the Brooklyn Nets, where you come in expecting yourself to be the second star to Kevin Durant, but then you just have so many. Like the Nets just try to do so much to make the most of this. Be it trading everything they had for James Harden, then hiring Steve Nash as a coach. Wow, was that a bad move? When Kyrie Irving came out and said that, well, we don't care that Steve Nash is a coach. We're all going to be coaching by committee. That was like the biggest red flag. I still today can't believe that Kyrie openly, after seeing the new coach we hired, said that, well, we're coaching by committee anyway. Like, you're really undercutting the head coach. I mean, that just spelled disaster for Steve Nash's time with the team. And Nash wasn't a good coach either. Like, it was too soon in his career to become a coach. Like, go be an assistant somewhere, get your chops. We saw Jason Kidd did not do well when he became a head coach, but when he did the assistant grind and he came back as a head coach with the Dallas Mavericks, you Western Conference Finals, like that speaks for itself. First year, so I think that like Kyrie poisoned the well with Nash. Then James Harden wanted out because Kyrie was unavailable, and now Kyrie did not get his extension. He got into a massive controversy to start the year where Joe Tsai, the Nets owner, decided to suspend Kyrie for I think it was 5 games for like of course his anti-Semitic Twitter activity. So I mean, you see, like getting Kyrie Irving is not as easy as it seems. Like the Nets will value his production. He's an all-star starter for a reason. He has been great on the court, and every team will value that. However, when you know that Irving wants out of Brooklyn because he wants a long-term contract extension, which team would be willing to give up assets to get Irving, knowing that he is a flight risk after 6 months? Or if he's just not happy with where he's being traded, we cannot put it past Kyrie that he'll simply not play. Like, I know Stephen A. Smith reported 2 days ago that Irving will not be sitting out. However, today we saw reporting that Irving will be sitting out. And of course, he missed the Nets game tonight. And I do not expect him to play before the trade deadline, obviously. And if he's not moved, it'll be interesting to see if he, comes back to finish the season out. Because it's Kyrie Irving. You just never know with him. So when it comes to possible, destinations for Kyrie, already mentioned it, the Lakers, I think, are like the favorites. They should be. If the Lakers are not the favorites, and like you're not looking at this situation for what it is. LeBron is literally tweeting out eyeball emojis. Phil Handy, who's Kyrie's coach as well, personal coach as well, and an assistant on the Lakers, is tweeting out eye emojis. They're waiting for this to happen. LeBron today, after the Lakers lost to the Pelicans in his post-game conference, literally said that, duh, we would like Kyrie. So I think it's fully on Rob Pelinka right now, whether he can convince the Nets to give Kyrie to them. I do not think Russell Westbrook and two picks get it done, though. The Nets have incentive to continue competing. They don't own their picks for quite a while, actually. So with Kyrie's money, just getting Westbrook and then letting Westbrook walk in the summer, it's not a winning move. It really is not. And it depends on how highly the Nets value those two Laker picks. Maybe they accept Russ and those two picks, and down the line maybe they let Russ walk, but they use those two picks to make the roster better. You never know. I think what the most likely situation here is that we will see a 3-team trade of some kind. Many teams could be the third team, like the Spurs and the Hornets and the Jazz. I think these three teams would be the number one likely partners in a Kyrie Irving Russell Westbrook trade, because the Nets will not want Westbrook. And if they want to make a winning move, I don't think they'll value the Laker picks as highly as, like, Utah Jazz would. Right? Danny Ainge, like, I think he would love those two picks in his hands. But in my opinion, I think the best trade package that you could come up with here that would make every single team happy is if you move Kyrie to the Lakers move Westbrook and their two picks to the Charlotte Hornets, and the Hornets move any combination of 3 players or 2 players to the Nets as as compensation for the draft capital that technically the Nets would be sending to them. You know how 3-team trades work a little differently, but if they're getting the 2 picks from the Lakers, they will take Westbrook's contract for half a year, whether they buy him out so that Westbrook can sign with someone else, or whether they just keep him as a mentor for half a season. The Hornets need something. Like, LaMelo is injured all the time, and just the larger roster is made. But what do the Hornets give up? I guess their best few players, because the Nets won't have any like desire for a James Bouknight. If you're doing a trade like this, the Hornets get off the money from Terry Rozier. I don't think you can move off Gordon Hayward's contract like this. So you move Terry Rozier on, maybe you move Kelly Oubre on, maybe you move Mason Plumlee on. These are good, valuable players. And given the price, given that they might be receiving 2 of the most coveted future first-round picks in the NBA right now, it would make sense for them to, part with these players now, have a more clean slate heading into the next off season, and hopefully make the right moves. Charlotte Hornets never make the right moves. Somehow they had a above 500 record last season, completely fell apart this year. It's not just Miles Bridges, it's just LaMelo's hurt, organization is bad. So just move the players you have right now for some value and just start over. Like, this Hornets roster is not good. If the Nets get players like Rozier would fill in, like, of course he's not Kyrie Irving. Like, you can't possibly get an upgrade on Kyrie Irving in this trade market. But what you can do is spread out value across the roster. Terry Rozier would be a perfectly fine scoring guard for the Nets. I wouldn't trust his playmaking as much, but if Ben Simmons can stay healthy, I guess you look at Ben Simmons to be your primary half-court creator. The one thing we know is that part of Simmons' game is still intact. He can still be an effective playmaker. Even more actually, because it seems like he just wants to pass the ball. So you have your playmaker, you have a scoring guard in Rozier, you obviously have Kevin Durant, and you have the depth that the Nets have anyway, with like Royce O'Neal, TJ Warren, Yuta Watanabe, and whatever. If you can get Mason Plumlee from the Charlotte Hornets, that addresses the lack of big play behind Nicholas Claxton in on the Nets right now. I mean, I've seen lineups with Markieff Morris playing the center, which I don't think is eight for you in the playoffs if you want. Of course, you can play small ball with him, but I mean, I think getting Mason Plumlee, who's shown like good value for the Hornets this year, I think having him and Claxton as your big rotation is quite a big advantage, because when you do want to play small ball lineups, you still have Mook on the bench. So like you have lineup versatility. There's a lot that the Nets could do. It keeps them winning. That's the main thing. That they can continue fielding a winning lineup for this season, possibly the future with, like, of course, the contract that Rozier has. But the larger question will be how Kevin Durant will react to Kyrie being traded. Reportedly, he feels like he's been blindsided by Kyrie. He did not see this coming. I think Kyrie just 2 weeks ago made this really audacious quote about how the Nets are dealing with KD's injury this season better than they did in the last 2 years, because they don't have any halfway in, halfway out guys. Well, Kyrie, aren't you the halfway in, halfway out guy? You said you wouldn't leave the Cleveland Cavaliers, you left them. You said you wouldn't leave the Boston Celtics, you left them. And now you were saying that you're fully in, you're fully committed, you're not halfway in, you're not halfway out. Trade request. I understand a player in his 30s like Kyrie, especially with the controversies he's had, would like to secure a long term contract. And if the Nets aren't the ones to give it to him, there is incentive for him to, be traded on his current contract, so his bird rights will transfer to whichever team acquires him. And then they can pay him whatever he wants outside of the cap, which is why they want to he wants to end up with the Lakers, because if the Lakers have both him and Hachimura, they can extend both, even though they'll go way over the luxury tax again. But they could theoretically extend both because they have the bird rights from both the contracts. So there is incentive for the Lakers to get Kyrie right now. If LeBron can't control Kyrie, I think like nobody can. But LeBron clearly failed the first time. Of course, they won a championship, but he couldn't keep Kyrie happy. I think Kyrie will come in now knowing that he can't be the number one option ahead of LeBron. Even in year 20, LeBron, like even 7 years after they won the championship, LeBron James is still objectively a better basketball player than Kyrie Irving. So if he's now fully going in, fully bought in, knows the situation his career is falling into, he will accept the contract, he will accept the role, and the Lakers become quite dangerous, like I still, like I spoke about in my Hachimura video, I think they still need help on the wings. But Kyrie Irving, damn, like from Russell Westbrook to Kyrie Irving, the Lakers could go from starting freaking Dennis Schroeder and Patrick Beverley as their starting backcourt to having Kyrie Irving and Patrick Beverley. But like Kyrie Irving, that's a headline. That's the marquee. And we know he can hoop. We've seen it this year. He's an all-star starter. People picked him over Jaylen Brown, who's having a sensational season himself. And deservedly so. Irving has been a joy to watch. I think he's had some rough stretches. Like the first 3-4 games when KD went down, Kyrie was like, he had one game where he had like almost 40 points, but the Nets still lost. But after that, he really like became an on-court leader. He galvanized the troops and they were competing, which is why I feel like KD felt like the trade request blindsided him. Anyway, the Lakers are the most obvious, and I personally would expect if Kyrie is to get moved, he will get moved to the Lakers. But what about some other teams? The Dallas Mavericks are like, if right after the Lakers get mentioned, people talk about the Dallas Mavericks as suitors for Kyrie. The trade package will be Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie. No picks, because if the Mavericks give up a pick, I will actively lose my mind, because you can't afford to give up future trade flexibility to get a half season rental of Kyrie Irving. I don't know how realistic it is that the Mavs extend him. There's a lot of issues on the Mavs roster, especially if you give up Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith. Of course, giving up Dinwiddie and getting Kyrie, completely fine, completely fine. That no Mavs fan should be upset about that. Giving Dorian Finney-Smith, he's had a tough season, but realistically, he's the only good front court defender that we've had over the last few years. Like, there is consistency in Dorian Finney-Smith's production defensively and offensively. It's not been good this year. So maybe for the Mavs, this is an opportunity to sell high on Dorian and get Kyrie. However, like, Kyrie is a win now move, right? Yeah, like, you're getting Kyrie so you can be competitive this year. I don't know how competitive the Mavs can be when they don't have Dorian Finney-Smith, because we don't really have any other front court players that can, step up and play in that role. Idea like Maxi Kleber is more of a big than a wing, so I wouldn't trust Maxi Kleber to fill in that spot. Josh Green is basically the only wing defender that we have on the roster right now. AJ Lawson is on a two-way. He's too young. You can't trust him so early. Like, AJ Lawson doesn't play for the Mavericks when we don't have anybody. Like, it's like that. So you don't have any options beyond Dorian Finney-Smith. So unless you can, do a secondary move where you move Reggie Bullock away and get some sort of a wing on the roster. And of course, Bullock is a wing as well, but like a more high-value big, especially defensively, because the concerns with Bullock this year have been incredibly high. Like, the shooting is as streaky as ever. I think he's shooting 47% from 3 in January, which is fantastic. But I mean, that's why we call him the Winter Soldier. He always gets hot December, January, February. If he can, but his defense has clearly regressed. The Mavs need defensive help. Like, that's all. Like, getting Kyrie makes you better instantly, but at the cost of defense. And I don't really know if you can realistically compete for a championship without a defensive presence. Kyrie Irving has never been that big of a championship swing kind of guy. Boston had a great team around him. He just couldn't put it together. Luka and Kyrie are they compatible as people, as teammates? All of that you worry about later. But Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith is the only realistic trade offer that we could give. Some fans would love to see Christian Wood in the trade instead of Dorian Finney-Smith, but then at that point, I don't think the Nets have any incentive to do that, because Dorian is locked up on a long-term contract, and Wood you have to pay this season, and Spencer will be on the final year of his contract after this year because he has a team option. So realistically, the Nets could decline his team option and move on from both Wood and Dinwiddie after half a season, and then Mavs lose Kyrie after half a season. It's not the most comfortable trade to make, but I guess this is the time we need to see the Mavericks make some risks. Luka is under contract for 4 years. This is the first year of his contract. So, you have time, but when it's a superstar like Luka, the scrutiny, the pressure to make a move will always be so incredibly high. I personally would wait till the summer, have a valuable contract, because Dorian Finney-Smith is one of the only players with plus value on the Mavs. I would love to have Dorian in the summer for a larger, more a trade that sustains us throughout the term of Luka's remaining contract, instead of a half measure Kyrie Irving for this season and then he walks next year. It's too much of a headache. And even if Kyrie comes and he extends the contract, then there is a compelling argument, because again, a Kyrie and Luka backcourt, I think offensively would easily be the best in the NBA. Without a doubt, Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving in the backcourt together, unstoppable in my opinion. Then if he extends, maybe then in the summer you can try to make something happen with the contracts of Tim Hardaway Jr. and Davis Bertans, because the Mavs don't have salary room. We can't really go out into the free agency market and sign replacements for players like Dorian Finney-Smith. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. I wouldn't hate it, but I wouldn't love it either. Mavericks trading for Kyrie. It's a bit of a, you really have to be cautious. You really have to see how it plays out to really grade the trade. What is Dorian's value on the court as well as off the court due to like he's a locker room leader. He's one of Luka's best friends, and like there have been too many moves that seemingly directly antagonize Luka sometimes. Whether it's intentional or not, but not signing Goran Dragic when you needed ball handling help, not keeping Jalen Brunson, who's Luka's draft classmate and one of his best friends, losing assistant coach Igor to the Brooklyn Nets, funnily enough, in the summer. And Igor was the Suns' head coach in 2018 when they drafted Aiton, even though he pushed for Luka. So there have, and the biggest, of course, Boban, who has moved on for Wood. But like that was a good move. Like you do not keep Boban Marjanovic around to be a cheerleader, especially if you already employ Theo Pinson. Like he played center today. 6'4", 6'5" Theo Pinson was playing center against the Golden State Warriors today. It's insane. The roster needs help. And Kyrie is a 2-for-1 deal that essentially weakens our roster depth but obviously increases our ceiling more. So let's see where that happens. Two quick other ones. Clippers have been reported from this night, like it was reported last night, that the Clippers are in the sweepstakes. Um, Kyrie, Kawhi, and Paul George might be like the unavailable three. Like that's the definition of three players who will not give you 82 games. No, who won't even give you 70 games. Who won't even give you 60 games a season. Like that's the kind of big three they're putting together. But Steve Ballmer is the definition of like an owner who'll do anything to win. We've already seen that. It's not worked out so far. The Clippers have so many contracts that they could move. I think they're the second most expensive roster in the NBA behind the Warriors this year. So, like, you try to move John Wall, Robert Covington, Luke Kennard, Norman Powell. You have so many contracts that you could move. Reggie Jackson, I think, yeah. Reggie Jackson would also, like, out of all the players I just named, John Wall's the only one making under 10 million. So, you can easily make the money match. You can pick an assortment of forwards and like one guard and just give them to the Nets. But I do think if it's a deal with the Clippers, a pick will have to be involved because like what the Nets get from Dorian and Dinwiddie as options is a little higher because those are two bona fide starters, went to the Western Conference Finals last year and like really showed off. I don't think the Clippers give up Nicholas Batum again due to like their locker room and how Batum is really a valuable veteran on that team. I think the most likely trade pieces are between Luke Kennard, Norman Powell, and Robert Covington in terms of who they give up. Getting Kyrie would be a slam. The Clippers would become the scariest team in the league if they have Kyrie Irving, without a doubt. Obviously, it's contingent on Paul George and Kawhi being healthy, but Ty Lue and Kyrie reunited in a different LA team, oof, that might be scary. And of course, like whatever assortment of players the Nets get, I don't know if they'd be super thrilled with it because I don't trust John Wall or Reggie Jackson to become a point guard. Do the Nets like then put Seth Curry and Patty Mills into greater positions in the roster? Do you accept Norman Powell's long-term contract and like just have him do what Cam Thomas would do for you if he got a bigger role? Of course, with Powell being more consistent and better, but like at that point you can just use that time to develop Cam Thomas. Otherwise, what are you doing? He dropped 44 points today off the bench. He's a microwave scorer. Norman Powell has more defensive chops to provide, so that's an iffy thing. Like I don't know if I'd be running out the door with happiness for getting Norman Powell and Robert Covington. Sure, why not? 3 and D, definition of 3 and D again. But he just, I don't think Covington's been as good as he was at least 2 years ago. He was great that 1 year with Houston. I loved him then. I think then he went to Portland and then he went to the Clippers. So I'm not sure on the net how the Nets would value Covington and like basically who else? Luke Kennard, yeah. Like you get a shooter like Luke Kennard, you are okay. So but again, that's another long term contract. I think Kennard's making about 14 million, which is palatable for sure. Like you on a contending team would be okay with paying Luke Kennard 14 million. So let's see what happens there. I don't think the package is just there yet. Like, I think the Lakers and the Mavs have more compelling things to offer at the moment, because that could change if the Clippers offer Terrence Mann, of course. I didn't mention Terrence Mann, but if Terrence Mann is in the deal, I think the Nets are way more willing to discuss it. That's like a high potential young player who can give you solid production right now. So I think that would definitely make the Clippers offer a little more attractive. But as constructed with players like John Wall, Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard, Robert Covington, and all these assortment of wings on the roster, I think I think the deal isn't as straightforward as most people would like to think. The Phoenix Suns is again one more team that's been mentioned. I like Kyrie on the Suns, but again, it's whether you're willing to mortgage Chris Paul's future right now. Like, Chris Paul is evidently regressing, and there's not much you can say about it. Like, it was bound to happen. Something happened in the 2022 playoffs. I think it was after. I remember he had some stinkers against the Pelicans, and of course, after Game Two of the Mavs series, like, he was just an active detriment on the court. And there have been many games this season where Chris Paul has looked like an active detriment on the court. So, but I think all the leadership intangibles that Chris Paul is so heavily valued for, I think if he brings those to the Nets, there is a lot more value in that, because the Nets are, as an organization, one word, dysfunctional. Like, it's been 3 years of non-stop drama. Like, you have to wonder why all the net stars keep asking out of the team. Like, it's crazy. Harden asked out, KD asked out, Kyrie's asking out. There's something bad in the water in Brooklyn, and I think Chris Paul, like, with his stature, could fix that. But again, you have to look at on-court production this season. Chris Paul, Jay Crowder, Chris Paul, Cameron Johnson, Landry Shamet, Dario Saric. Do those players really move the Nets enough to give Kyrie up? I think the Suns would also happily give up a pick, unlike the Clippers, because the Clippers don't have many picks. The Suns have a lot of picks. So, and they're in a position where they don't really need to make the kind of splash that you want the Mavericks to make in the summer, because most of the Suns roster is in place and is good, and they'll keep contracts. Like, even if they move Chris Paul on, they can still have players like DeAndre Ayton and what, three other picks, even if they give one to the Nets right now, to make another splash. And that makes it a little like dangerous. And of course, the Suns are getting a new owner in Matt Ishbia, and that man wants to make a splash, doesn't he? He wants to show everyone that the Phoenix Suns are a team that wants to win now. Kyrie Irving is the definition of a win now move. So I think the Suns should be looked at. Other teams interested, I think the only other team I haven't talked about is the Miami Heat. The Nets won't take Kyle Lowry. That's about it. Like, yeah, I don't think Kyle Lowry moves the needle enough. The Heat don't have future picks to offer. They don't have young players to offer. If you offer Tyler Hero in a deal like this, you're taking a lateral step anyway, because at least Hero is young and under contract. Kyrie might be better in the moment, but Kyrie might also leave the team. But again, it's the Miami Heat. Pat Riley has never, ever, ever shied away from taking a risk on players that were considered too hard to manage. Jimmy Butler is a shining example. He burnt out of every single place he was in before Miami, and now he's like the ultimate leader. So maybe that is an option that interests Kyrie. The Heat are like insane as a franchise anyway, like in a good way. They always make the kind of moves you don't expect them to, and they remain consistent, they remain competitive. And again, the Heat like are just having a great second half of the season turnaround right now. They are definitely going to be in the playoffs without Kyrie. So if you can give up, like, Kyle Lowry, maybe Victor Oladipo. Again, of course, you have like your Max Struces, your Caleb Martins. Duncan Robinson is not going to be in a deal like this at all. So like there are compelling pieces the Nets could get, but again, I don't know if it's as compelling as getting the getting the good players from Charlotte in a three team with the Lakers, or getting two of the four best Mavericks this season. Like it's Luka Dinwiddie, Dorian, and Christian Wood, I guess, would be the four best Mavericks players. You can get two of them. They've already shown you that they can compete in the playoffs. They can give you good production in the playoffs. Dinwiddie is familiar with the Nets. He's been there before. And Dorian is KD loves Dorian, and Dorian is just a very stable option to have. Like, you won't have drama. He might be the one quelling drama. Like, he will put a stop to a lot of bad habits. So yeah, that's what I think. What do you guys think? Is Kyrie Irving going to get traded? If you do think that Kyrie is going to any of the teams that I haven't mentioned right now, please leave them in the comments. Let me know if you agree with me. Let me know if you think that there could be different packages with these teams that Kyrie could go for. And please, most importantly, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Please help me out. Hair is weird today. I still did it. I wore my Mavs jersey because of the fandom in me and the confusion around Kyrie. Like, yeah, I want him, but I don't want him. So it's been a very, emotionally tough week for me as a Mavericks fan. And trade deadline is Christmas, is basketball Christmas. So thank you for watching. This was a long one. I've just been rambling, but yes, thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time.